Hi, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times, and we'll talk about news in Arkansas today. Actually, it's early the afternoon of Thursday, July 30th. Not a lot of breaking news at the time we tape this, if we can call this tape, and I've got to get somewhere this afternoon. So we'll talk a little bit about some things we've missed this week. First, politics. A couple of polls came out this week in two important races that had bad news for Democrats. Tom Cotton turned up in the Hendrix College Talk Business poll with a 2-point lead over Mark Pryor in the race for U.S. Senate. And Asa Hutchinson, the Republican gubernatorial nominee, came up with a 46-41 5-point lead over Democrat Mike Ross in the race for governor. I think there's some things that Democrats can take away from this that are not altogether bad, but you always want to be ahead in the polls. Number one, Republicans thought Tom Cotton would run away with the race against Mark Pryor. Clearly, it's going to go down to the wire. It's within the margin of error. It's too close to call. This poll didn't poll enough African-American voters, at least historically, according to their past turnout. They tend to vote Democratic. As I say, the best thing you can take away from this race is that it's close. I think you have to agree that Asa Hutchinson is in the lead in the race for governor. It is true that he's had some damaging publicity within the last week since that poll was done. It perhaps will affect his numbers. I'm not sure that the small controversy about his having cheated on property taxes will necessarily work against him. The Democrats seem to hope so by their advertising. I do think there's one thing to take away from the Asa Hutchinson poll. I noticed one consultant said he clearly had momentum. He clearly does not have momentum. Since the day he entered the race, he's been in the 45 to 47% range, and that's where he holds. This race I still think is there for the taking, but Mike Ross is going to have to find some issue that he can run on. By the way, there was one other poll right before I came in here today, and it was done by the group that's seeking a statewide vote on retail alcohol sales in all 75 counties. It showed a 2-point lead for Mark Pryor. So again, that's also in the margin of error. This is a dead heat, I think. That poll was done by a Democratic-leaning political firm in Jackson, so take that with a grain of salt. Speaking of booze, it's a big day for filing of petitions for local option elections in Saline County and Craighead County. They think they've made sufficient progress to get local option votes there. A petition drive continues to be underway in Faulkner County. These will go on and will be on the ballot regardless of what happens on the state initiative, but that could moot any results there. And by the way, on alcohol, the conventional wisdom is if you can get it on the ballot, it will pass. There are more drinkers than non-drinkers in Arkansas. In other news this week that you'll find on the Arkansas blog, Johnny Key, a Republican from Mountain Home, a popular and well-liked member of the state Senate, decided that he didn't mean it when he said he would serve a full term in the Senate if he was elected, and that he would serve a full term if he was chosen for a job as lobbyist for the University of Arkansas. He decided instead to resign effective today and take that UA lobbying job. This will be worth $50,000 more to him for the remainder of the year over what he would have earned if he'd been a state senator, so I can see where he said his family thought this might be a good move for him to make. Key leaves with some questions that I raised this morning about whether the Arkansas Constitution frowns on sitting legislators taking state jobs. I think as a technical matter, the Supreme Court has finally okayed that proceeding, but it doesn't remove some of the smell that obtains when somebody who has done work for a state agency that's been very important to that agency in terms of raw money, in the case of the University of Arkansas, gets hired for them by a big job while he's sitting in the legislature. I think it presents a bad appearance. Johnny Key made a little news with me yesterday in confirming his resignation. He said the votes are simply not there to pass a change in the state broadband law that prevents state competition with private providers of broadband service to public schools. So that's going to have to delay until 2015 at least. I'd also ask you to take a look at my blog for a post this morning about John Correnti, the leader of the Big River Steel Mill that's going to be under construction in Mississippi County. A big deal for jobs, but the state has invested an enormous sum in it. Correnti gave an interview to Arkansas Business in which he said government needs to get out the private enterprise. Coming from him, it qualifies him for the Hypocrite of the Year, maybe the Century Award. Without tens of millions of direct government grants, hundreds of millions in loan, and investment capital from the state teacher retirement system, which is made up wholly of taxpayer finance money, John Correnti wouldn't have a business to talk about. So what we need from John Correnti is for him, first of all, to say thank you to taxpayers of Arkansas, and secondly, I said, to shut up. Finally, it's cold for July. This is going to be nearly a record, perhaps a record cool July for Little Rock, and I'm not complaining. I'm Max Brantley, and I'll see you tomorrow.